What if I told you that a single sentence in a courtroom could silence laughter, shake the walls of justice, and leave everyone in shock? This is exactly what happened when a young voice stood up against the impossible. Have you ever seen a dog cry? What you're about to hear today will break your heart, and then piece it back together in the most beautiful way you could ever imagine. This is the story of Emily, a 6-year-old little girl who lost everything in a single night, and of Saun, a German shepherd who gave her back hope when no one else knew how. It all began during a police ceremony, one of those events where medals and honors are handed out. The gymnasium was packed. Proud parents filled the seats, officers stood tall in their dress uniforms, and restless children wriggled in their chairs, unable to sit still. But right in the front row sat one tiny figure who didn't move at all: Emily. She was in her wheelchair, dressed in a little white gown embroidered with delicate flowers, her golden curls tied back with a ribbon. She looked like a porcelain doll, fragile, silent, and broken inside. No one watching her that day could have guessed that her legs once carried her like the wind through open fields, that she had once been fearless, a natural runner. But one night, a drunk driver had taken that away in an instant. The accident not only stole Emily's ability to walk, it also stole her father, Officer Thomas Black, who died shielding her with his own body. Since that night, Emily had withdrawn completely. She didn't speak at home, she didn't speak in therapy, she didn't even speak to her mother Sarah, who now raised her alone. It was as if her child's soul had locked itself in a safe and thrown the key into the bottom of the ocean. The only reason Emily was at the ceremony was because they were honoring her father's memory. When the police chief announced Officer Black's name, Sarah gently pushed Emily's wheelchair toward the stage to receive the medal in his honor. The entire crowd rose silently to their feet, a tribute to a fallen hero. Emily took the velvet box in her tiny hands, but her face showed no emotion. No smile, no tear, nothing. And that's when he appeared. Saun, a majestic German shepherd with eyes that seemed to hold the weight of 1,000 lives. He had been Officer Black's partner for years, but ever since Thomas's death, Saun had refused to bond with another officer. He obeyed commands, yes, but his spirit was distant. A part of him had died with his partner. Yet that day, Saun had been restless, scratching and whining until his handler finally brought him to the gym. And now, just as Sarah was turning Emily's chair away from the stage, Saun broke free. A gasp rippled through the room as the dog moved forward, not running, not barking, just walking slowly, with purpose, straight toward Emily. "Saun!" an officer called sharply, but the dog ignored him. Sarah froze. Emily lifted her head, startled but oddly calm. And then something extraordinary happened. Saun lowered himself gently to the floor, right in front of Emily's wheelchair. With a dignity beyond words, he bowed his massive head and placed his paw softly on the footrest of her chair. It wasn't a trick. It wasn't a trained command. It was pure loyalty, shared grief, unconditional love, as if to say, "I remember him too, I miss him too, and now I'm here for you." Emily's lips began to tremble. Her small hands shook as she reached toward him, and then the impossible happened. For the first time in months, Emily spoke. barely a whisper, but clear as crystal. Sound. A sob escaped from Sarah's chest as tears streamed down her face. Sound lifted his head, nudging gently under Emily's arm, just as he used to when she was so little she could barely climb onto her father's shoulders. The gym, once filled with polite applause, now fell into absolute silence. The only sound was muffled sobs from the audience. One by one, officers stood. Then the entire crowd rose, not out of protocol, but out of raw, shared emotion. Even the police chief, a hardened veteran of 25 years, wiped his eyes. Sound never left Emily's side that day. That night, he went home with her and Sarah, and from that moment on, he became not only her protector, but her healer. Day by day, Emily began to smile again. She began to speak again, and when people asked her why, she would simply answer, "Because Sound reminded me that I'm not alone." Later, Sarah learned that Sound had been trained in emotional recognition, that he could sense when someone was in distress. But what happened that day wasn't training. It was something deeper, something that defied explanation. It was a bond that transcended words, a loyalty that even death couldn't break. Sound had lost his partner. Emily had lost her father. But in each other, they found the missing piece that made them whole again. Months later, Emily returned to school with Son proudly walking by her side every day. He was no longer just a police dog. He was her hero. And perhaps the most incredible part of this story, it reminds us that healing often comes from where we least expect it, that true love knows no boundaries, not of species, not of language, and that heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes they simply wear a collar and carry a heart willing to love without conditions. If this story touched your heart like it touched mine, leave me a comment. Have you ever witnessed a quiet act of kindness like this? I'd love to hear your story. And if you think someone else needs to hear this today, share it. Because stories like this remind us that there is always hope. Give this video a like if it moved you, even just a little. Subscribe for more stories that will touch your soul. And remember, in this crazy world, the only thing that truly matters is being good to one another. What did Son's act mean to you? I'll be reading your comments.